It began with a cardboard sign that stopped the heartbeat of a man who thought he had seen everything. On a cold morning in Central Park, billionaire Ethan Miles was rushing to a board meeting when his eyes caught something small, fragile, and heartbreakingly pure. A little girl sat alone by the fountain, clutching a wrinkled piece of cardboard that read, "Need a dad for the father-daughter dance." For a man who lived behind walls of glass and silence, those words hit harder than any loss he had ever known. The world around him seemed to fade. The sound of traffic, the laughter of strangers, all dissolved into a hum. There was just her, a little girl with hope in her eyes and tears on her cheeks. Ethan's breath caught. It had been years since he'd looked into eyes that innocent, eyes that reminded him of someone he once called his own. He didn't plan to stop, but his feet betrayed him. He walked closer, slowly, afraid his voice might break if he spoke. "Are you lost, sweetheart?" he asked softly. The girl shook her head. "No, sir. I'm waiting for my dad. He was supposed to come." Her voice trembled, carrying a weight no child should bear. Ethan swallowed hard. "And your mom?" "She's working," the girl whispered. "She said maybe someone kind would help." There was no begging, no act, just truth. And truth has a way of finding its way through even the strongest armor. Something inside him cracked open, something he thought money and time had buried forever. He saw his late daughter's face flicker in the child's small, hopeful eyes. He bent down, meeting her gaze. "What's your name?" "Lily," she replied. "What's yours?" "Ethan," he said, his throat tight. The girl smiled faintly, and that single smile rewrote his morning, his purpose, and perhaps his life. The next morning, Ethan found himself standing in front of a small apartment building in Brooklyn, something he had never done before without a chauffeur or assistant. He hesitated at the cracked door, unsure why his heart was racing. When Lily's mother opened it, her tired eyes widened in surprise. Claire wore a diner uniform, her hair tied back, exhaustion written across her face. "You're him," she said cautiously. "The man from the park," Ethan nodded. "Yes, I wanted to make sure Lily got home safely yesterday." Her shoulders stiffened. "She told me about the dance." "You don't have to do this. People feel sorry for us all the time." Ethan's voice softened. "It isn't pity. It's a promise." Claire studied him for a long moment, then stepped aside to let him in. Lily peeked out from behind her, her eyes bright. "You really came back," she said, her voice full of disbelief and joy. Ethan smiled faintly. "I told you I would." He sat down awkwardly on their worn sofa, feeling the weight of a world far removed from his own. The air smelled of coffee and laundry soap. For the first time in years, he wasn't surrounded by glass walls or luxury. Claire sat across from him, still guarded. "You're a billionaire, aren't you?" she asked quietly. "I saw the news," Ethan sighed. "That doesn't make me a good man, just a busy one who forgot what matters." Something flickered in her eyes, a mix of curiosity and pain. "Lily's been waiting for a miracle," she whispered. "Do you plan to be one?" Ethan looked at Lily, who was sketching something on a piece of paper. "No," he said softly. "I just plan to show up." That answer, more than money or fame, began to earn their trust. Outside, the city kept rushing, but for Ethan, time slowed. For once, he wasn't thinking of deals or profits. He was thinking about a dance, a promise, and a chance to heal a heart that wasn't just hers, but his too. By Friday evening, Ethan's name was on every social feed. The clip of him kneeling beside a crying girl had spread like wildfire. Headlines called him the billionaire with a heart. His assistants tried to handle the calls, the charities, the interviews, but Ethan ignored them all. He wasn't doing this for the world. He was doing it for a promise made under a gray sky and a cardboard sign. That morning, he had stood before his mirror, staring at the reflection of a man he barely recognized. The suit was perfect, the tie neat, yet behind his eyes was a softness that hadn't existed for years. He drove himself to Brooklyn without the usual convoy, stopping by a small thrift boutique on the way. The clerk, a young woman with kind eyes, watched him pick out a little blue dress and white shoes. "For someone special?" she asked with a smile. Ethan nodded slowly. "Yes. Someone who reminded me life isn't all numbers and noise." When he arrived at Lily's home, Claire opened the door, her mouth parting in surprise. "You actually came," she whispered. "I said I would," Ethan replied simply. Lily ran forward, her face glowing brighter than the city lights. "You look like a movie star," she giggled, spinning in her new dress. For a man who owned skyscrapers, this was the first time he felt truly tall. As they walked to the car, neighbors peeked from windows, whispering stories that would later fill news pages. But Ethan didn't care about any of them. He only cared about the small hand holding his, trusting him completely. For years he had been surrounded by people who wanted what he had. Tonight, for the first time, someone just wanted him there. The gym lights shimmered softly as music floated through the air, and Ethan paused at the entrance, unsure if he still remembered how to smile. Rows of paper lanterns hung above the polished floor, casting a golden glow over laughing fathers and daughters. For a moment, he almost turned away, afraid that his presence would seem out of place. But then he saw her, Lily, standing near the edge of the dance floor, clutching a small bracelet she had made from colored threads. When their eyes met, her entire face lit up. She ran toward him, her laughter filling the room like sunlight breaking through clouds. "You came," she cried, tugging his hand eagerly. "You really came?" Ethan smiled, his heart tightening. "I promised, didn't I?" He bent down slightly. "Shall we dance, Miss Lily?" She giggled, nodding with excitement. As they moved slowly across the floor, Ethan felt something in his chest unravel. A warmth that replaced the years of cold silence he had lived in. Around them, people watched, some whispering, others wiping tears they didn't expect. For them, it was a story unfolding before their eyes, but for Ethan, it was redemption. Every step reminded him of the nights he had danced with his own daughter, her laughter echoing in his memory like a song he never wanted to forget. When the music slowed, Lily rested her head on his chest, whispering, "You dance better than the dads in my class." Ethan chuckled softly, though his throat burned with emotion. "That's because I'm dancing with the best partner here." Claire watched from a distance, her eyes moist. Realizing this stranger had done what she thought impossible, he had brought joy back to her daughter's heart. And somewhere in that dimly lit hall, Ethan realized he hadn't come to replace anyone. He had come to remember what it meant to truly care. The next morning, the world was talking about the dance. Pictures of Ethan and Lily twirling under the paper lanterns flooded the internet. Strangers called it the story that restored faith in humanity. But Ethan didn't care about the noise outside. He cared about the silence inside him that finally felt peaceful. He sat in his penthouse, watching the city come alive below, holding a small bracelet Lily had slipped into his hand before saying goodnight. It was made of colored threads, uneven and delicate, yet it felt heavier than gold. For the first time in years, Ethan realized happiness did not live in skyscrapers or signatures. It lived in moments that made the heart remember what love was. A knock on the door broke his thoughts. When he opened it, Claire stood there, nervous but composed, holding a small box wrapped in tissue paper. "Lily made this for you," she said. Inside was a drawing of them at the dance, his tall figure holding Lily's tiny hand. Beneath it were 5 words written in a child's careful handwriting. "Thank you for showing up." Ethan blinked back emotion. "She is special," he whispered. Claire nodded. "You gave her hope." I haven't seen her smile like that in years. For a while they stood in silence. 2 people from different worlds who somehow understood each other perfectly. Then Claire looked down, hesitant. "She keeps asking if she'll see you again." Ethan met her gaze, steady and sincere. "If you'll allow it," he said softly. "I'd like to keep that promise too." Claire's eyes glimmered, a cautious hope breaking through years of disappointment. Maybe it's time she had someone who doesn't leave. As she turned to go, Ethan called out, "Claire, would you and Lily join me for lunch tomorrow?" She hesitated, then smiled faintly. "We'd like that." When the door closed, Ethan looked at the drawing once more and whispered, "Maybe this time I'll get it right." Sunday afternoon brought a calm Ethan had not felt in years. He arrived early at the small diner near Brooklyn Bridge, the same one where Claire worked every day, and this time he did not come in a suit. He wore a simple shirt, sleeves rolled up, trying to remember what it felt like to just be human. When Claire and Lily walked in, he stood up immediately. Lily ran to him, her laughter bright enough to light the room. "You came again," she said, jumping into his arms. "I told you I keep my promises," he replied, smiling. Claire watched them quietly, something soft and uncertain flickering behind her eyes. Over lunch, they talked about simple things. Lily's favorite stories, her dream of becoming an artist, the color she wanted her bedroom to be. Ethan listened more than he spoke, storing every detail like treasure. He had never realized how empty silence could be until now, when laughter filled the spaces that money never could. When Claire excused herself to take a phone call, Lily leaned closer and whispered, "Mom likes you. She just pretends she doesn't." Ethan laughed softly, a sound that even surprised him. "Maybe one day she'll tell me herself."